Okay, we're into part 2 on this Craftsman lawn tractor with the 21 horsepower Briggs Platinum engine and the blown head gasket. Prepping the parts for reassembly. First I want to get all this gasket and carbon off of here, so we got a nice clean surface for it to mate up with. I'm just using a single edge razor blade to get the main part of it off. And then what we're going to use is one of these Scotch-Brite roll-lock discs. You gotta be careful with this. You gotta move quick and not hover, because this is an aluminum head, and if you hover you're gonna make craters. So if you're not used to them, you're better off to use something else. Maybe just a hand piece of Scotch-Brite or a piece of 400 or 600 grit sandpaper on some type of a flat block. But you just want to move quick and just get it cleaned off, and don't sit in one place. Out here doesn't matter. That's not a sealing surface. Around these bolt holes does matter. That's a sealing surface. Okay, so that's all set, other than after I get done with the valve cover here, I'm going to run it through the parts washer, just to get any crud out of it. This thing's obviously, it's been apart before, because it's all full of RTV or whatever. There's no gasket here, just this RTV sealant. This is a steel valve cover, so it's a little more forgiving with the cookie wheel than the aluminum. Aluminum is very easy to damage with those wheels. But they do a fantastic job. Now this here, if you don't have one of those angle grinders with the cookie wheel on it, if you have a bench grinder with a wire wheel on it, that's another good way to do valve covers. Hit them on the wire wheel, cleans them up nice. Okay, and the other thing that you want to check, you want to check that the bolt holes, the metal around the bolt holes is flat. That they're not domed up from somebody over torquing the bolts. Because if that's the case, then you have to hammer them back down flat, because otherwise when you tighten up your mounting bolts for the valve cover, the corners are going to be making contact, and the whole center of the body of the gasket surface is not going to be making contact. It's going to basically be like the effect of if you put flat washers underneath all four corners, you're not going to get a very good seal. You're gonna get leakage, and you're gonna wonder why I put a new gasket on and the SOB is still leaking on me. Why? Well, a lot of times it's because somebody animaled the bolts. They think they're tightening up lug nuts on the truck, and they bent the steel. They deformed the steel. So you got to get it. If that's happened, you got to get it flattened back out, and then you'll get a nice seal. So I'm going to go stick these in the parts washer, and we'll be back at it. Oreo. Oreo. The shop dog Oreo says he'd fix it himself, but he don't have thumbs. Okay, so everything's cleaned up on the head and the valve cover. Now we'll get to cleaning up the engine block, and the gasket set is in, and the new push rods are in. So we'll get into reassembling this engine, and hopefully the smoking problem will be gone. So we'll see in a minute when we get into doing the engine cleaning off. Okay, so we're back at the engine block here. We'll get the block surface cleaned off and get this ready for reassembly, and then we'll be into reassembling this thing. This is the old head gasket, obviously. We'll get this peeled off of here. can see that bad spot right there, which allows the compression to go into the push rod galley, down into the engine block, pressurize that, and force oil out where it doesn't belong. And this here is just a environmentally friendly degreaser that doesn't choke you out of the room. You can even see the scar here. Where the gases have been blown by the head gasket. You gotta be a little gentle here because, again, you're dealing with aluminum. If it was a good old cast iron engine block, they're a lot more forgiving. You don't want to put gouges and divots and everything else in here because that's just one more place for a leak potential. The other thing that works well for scraping gaskets are the cheap wood chisels from Home Depot or Lowe's or Harbor Freight. They're like, I don't know, 3 for $10 or something, a 3-pack. They're not much good for woodworking, but they make very good gasket scrapers. I've got some of those, but mine are all kind of chewed up and gouged up, and on aluminum they're gonna leave scratches and stuff. I need to take some time and redress the edges on them, or just go buy another set. I'm hopeful that when I get done with all this engine isn't smoking anymore, because it's a customer's job. It isn't my own piece of equipment, so there's always a little anxiety that hopefully you're not putting the effort in and not getting the results you want, and now basically you have to eat the job, because they're paying you to fix it, and if you miss something, well, then that's on you. You're supposed to be a professional. If it's your own piece of equipment, and the problem isn't solved when you're through, well, you could either take another stab at it. Your time is your own. You could drop another engine on it, whatever. You know, it's your options. But with anything that you're doing professionally, you have to do your diagnostics right, and you should get the outcome that you're looking for. But that doesn't always work that way. Okay, so I've got the surface here all cleaned up. The other thing that I like to do with, I cleaned it up with the cookie wheel. I didn't show it on camera because you just watched me do the same process to the cylinder head. But the other thing that I like to do with aluminum is to use a used cookie wheel to do this, and I save my used ones that, you know, aren't ready to be thrown away. But the used ones are far less aggressive and you know, more forgiving than a brand new one. A brand new one on aluminum, you really got to be careful. But this is all set now, so the next segment we'll get this thing reassembled. I've already looked up all of my torque specs and clearance specs for the valves and the head bolt torque specs and the valve cover torque specs and everything else. Not that you really need valve torque specs for the valve cover, but I looked them up for those interested, and I'll torque this one with a torque wrench. It's not really necessary, but I don't know. I guess for those of you out there who haven't done a lot of this, it would be some useful information. For those of you out there that work on this kind of stuff all the time, basically the only specs that you need are the head bolt specs and the valve clearance specs. Other than that, it's pretty much yeah, just put it together and everything should work out fine. So we'll see you on the next segment. Please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment if you so desire. I try to make these informative. For a lot of guys, they do a lot of this stuff, so it's old hat, but for a lot of other people, hopefully you'll get something out of it. So we'll see you on the next segment, which will be part 3. Thanks for watching and have a great day.